Oh, well, hello and welcome to Studio Classroom on the air. Your English will improve today. My name is Gabe. And I was just thinking, if you had a robot, what would you want it to do for you? For me, it would be great if I had a robot at home to wash my dishes, sweep the floor, perhaps even make some meals. But I think I would find out quickly that I wasn't satisfied with the robot's work. The name of today's lesson is Robot Dexterity. Yesterday we learned about something called Moravec's paradox, which is the idea that what humans think is difficult is relatively easy for a robot, and what humans find easy could be difficult for a robot to do. So let's learn about some situations where we can observe Moravec's paradox right now. And for the record, I prefer to eat a meal that is made with love. Can your robot do that? I don't think so. Okay, I know your magazine is open. Let's begin.
Robot Dexterity. The game of chess is another example of Moravec's paradox. People might find mastering the game of chess difficult. But building a robot that can play chess is relatively easy. You can find plans online to build one today. Robots are very good at doing things in controlled environments. It is very difficult, however, for them to deal with certain types of variables. Moving through a room filled with random objects is just one example. Another challenge is programming a robot to pick up an assortment of objects of different shapes and sizes without damaging them.
Okay, let's take a look at an example of Moravec's paradox here in our lesson. The game of chess is an example of Moravec's paradox. And that's great because, well, as you learned a couple of days ago, Rebecca and I hadn't played chess in a long time.
Right.
And, I've never played chess with one of those timers that makes sure that you do your moves very quickly. Have you ever done that?
No, but I have played chess against the computer,
Yeah.
and the computer always wins.
Well, the computer wins, and the computer can make its moves in like 3 or 4 seconds, or just 1 second, whereas it takes me probably an average of like 5 minutes to make a move. So that's an idea of Moravec's paradox, right? The computer, which is made by a human, can actually play chess a lot better or master chess a lot faster than a human can.
Very interesting. People might find mastering the game of chess difficult. And let's take a look at that phrase, to find something adjective.
That's right. So this means that you discover or find out that something is that adjective. Okay, so maybe you didn't know that it was hard to master chess before, but now you've figured it out. Now you have found that mastering chess is difficult.
And here's another example. As you all know, or many of you know, we have 2 cats. Well, my roommate Sean finds giving the cat a bath quite pleasant. She rather enjoys giving the cats a bath.
Oh, nice. That's a great example and something positive. Thank you, Rebecca. So think of another way to use that phrase with a different kind of adjective, okay? But building a robot that can play chess is relatively easy. That's basically what we were just talking about. But we want to take a look at this word relatively as it appears in our lesson. Okay, so an adjective followed by the word relatively. This is when compared to other similar things. You can use the word easy here, it's easy compared to other similar things.
For example, I love hiking. I've done a lot of hiking, and some of the trails that I've gone on have been easy and some more difficult. Well, the hike to Half Dome in Yosemite National Park in California is relatively difficult. You definitely want to make sure you have good hiking shoes and lots of water.
You are right about that. It's not the most difficult in the world, and that's why Rebecca used the word relatively, because there are more difficult ones, but it's certainly not the easiest ones, one of the easiest ones either. Okay, that's a great example. Sometimes we would use the word comparatively as well. Sometimes it works in the same way, okay? So building a robot that can play chess is comparatively easy.
You can find plans online to build one today. So, if you are interested in building a robot that can play chess, guess what? You can find plans or instructions as to how to build one on the computer. Robots are very good at doing things in controlled environments.
Okay, controlled environments. But what are they not good at? Well, it is very difficult, however, for them to deal with certain types of variables. Variables refer to things that change. The opposite would be a constant, something that never changes. And if something is changing all the time, well, robots don't know how to deal with that.
That's right. So we read, moving through a room filled with random objects is just one example. And of course, if they're moving through the room, that's just the idea that they're going through the room. And if there's a lot of just random objects sitting on the floor or on the table, it's difficult for them to deal with that.
Yeah, perhaps a controlled environment would be a room that does not have any objects that it's not used to seeing. So maybe it scans the room, it's used to the table being in a certain place, the sofa over here. If everything is normal, it has no problem. But if you throw some laundry here and there and some toys, perhaps it'll find that a little bit difficult to get through. Unlike a human, we know easily how to go through things like laundry and just step over toys, so it's no problem for us.
That's right. Well, we read another challenge is programming a robot to pick up an assortment of objects of different shapes and sizes without damaging them. So maybe the robot will be able to pick up the different objects, but then the robot damages those objects. So what's the purpose of him picking them up?
Exactly. Well, Rebecca, have you ever heard the phrase, something takes a minute to learn, but a lifetime to master?
Oh, you mean like chess?
I think that it's pretty quick to learn chess. It doesn't take that long, but it takes a lifetime to master. And we want to take a deeper look at this phrase in
the Info Cloud.
Welcome to Info Cloud, everyone. Today, I want to talk about a game that I just bought to play with my kids.
I love playing games, and I think that playing games with your kids is a great way to have fun and learn skills too.
That's why I bought this particular game. On the box, it has the slogan, "A minute to learn, a lifetime to master."
That sounds like a great game to get your kids. Something with rules simple enough to learn quickly, but takes a long time to be really good at.
That's what I thought. A game that will never get old as my kids get older, but is easy enough for them to start playing now.
Actually, we can also use this to talk about things that seem simple, but are very hard to do well.
Let's take a simple example. Searching for things on the internet. It seems simple. All you have to do is type something on Google and hit enter.
But actually, knowing how to get good search results online is much more complicated. So we could say it takes minutes to learn, but a lifetime to master.
Welcome back to Studio Classroom. Earlier today, we learned about Moravec's paradox, or a little more about what Moravec's paradox looks like when it comes to what a robot can do and what a human can do. So we learned, for example, that when playing the game of chess, many people find mastering that game very difficult. But it could be relatively easy to build a robot that can play chess. That's just one example of Moravec's paradox. But the title of our lesson is Robot Dexterity. We haven't even talked about that word dexterity yet. I think we're going to right now.
Robot dexterity. It turns out that one of the most difficult things to improve in robots is their dexterity, or their ability to manipulate objects. Robotic limbs are gradually becoming more dexterous. Exciting developments in making human-like hands and legs are underway. But the biggest advancements might result from using virtual learning to teach robots through computer simulations. Robots programmed this way can guess what to do when they encounter unfamiliar things in the real world. Soon, robots may be able to do those things that humans find simple. That will mean big changes in what robots can do and how they help us with daily tasks.
Okay, now we're finally getting into the part of our lesson that talks specifically about the title, about robot dexterity, right? It turns out that one of the most difficult things to improve in robots is their dexterity, and we see a definition for it here. It's their ability to manipulate objects. And before we move on, let's take a look at a couple of things there. The first is that phrase, turns out, or it turns out. This means something proves to be, or it is, after considering everything, this is the final result or thought.
Exactly. For example, you could say, well, let's say, for example, someone invited you to go to the movies with them, and you say, oh no, I'm sorry, I can't because I have to work. 2 days later, you say, hey, it turns out I don't have to work after all. Maybe I can go to the movies with you.
That's an excellent example. So after all, I don't have to work, so I can go to the movies. And if you want another example of this phrase, it is the usage tip for this lesson. So you could find that in your magazine. But let's take a look at the word bank word there at the end of the sentence, to manipulate something. This means to operate something with your hands, if you're a human, or by machine in a skillful way.
Exactly. For example, a wheelchair is designed so that it can be easily manipulated. So the person sitting in the wheelchair can easily move the wheelchair around using their hands.
That's right. So what are some other things that you can manipulate? In our lesson, this is used in a very positive sense. Sometimes this word is used in a negative sense because sometimes it could mean to try to control other people and what they're going and what you want them to do or want them to say, and to try to, it's kind of a negative thing. So don't be a manipulative person. Don't try to manipulate other people. But a robot, of course, should try to manipulate objects.
You make a really, really good point. If you're around people who are trying to manipulate you or are manipulative, it can actually be very degrading and it can make you feel really bad. So there's a difference between the manipulate in our lesson and the manipulate that, Gabe, you brought up.
Yeah, okay, but it is a very useful word. Robotic limbs are gradually becoming more dexterous, okay? Exciting developments in making human-like hands and legs are underway. That means they're in the process of being developed. And it's really cool what you can do now with technology.
And actually, I do feel that this is a very positive thing, you know, making human-like hands and legs, because there are some people that don't have use of their hands or their legs, or, you know, one of their legs had to be amputated, but now we have these possible a leg that they can use to replace their real leg.
Exactly, or hands that have fingers that operate almost like human fingers do, right? Well, anyway, we read the biggest advancements might result from using virtual learning to teach robots through computer simulations. Okay, the reason that the word teach is in quotation marks is because a robot is a machine after all. It does not have a brain or a heart like we do, so we can teach humans in one way, and in another sense, I guess we could also teach robots.
Robots programmed this way can guess what to do when they encounter unfamiliar things in the real world. Now, if you notice, you see the word guess, it's in quotation marks, right? Because obviously a robot can't really guess because it doesn't have a brain, but when it's programmed a certain way, it can kind of guess.
Exactly. So that's how you use quotation marks, friends. You see it in two examples here in this section of our lesson. So think of another situation where you might also be able to use quotation marks in talking about something that may be used a little bit differently than normal. Okay, of course, humans can guess But robots, I don't think that's actually what they do. They can't really guess. But we read on here, soon robots may be able to do those things that humans find simple. That's the idea. Okay, so maybe Moravec's paradox will be proven false. In the future, robots will not only be able to do things that humans find difficult, but also normal things that we find simple, like going around a room that has random objects.
And we end with this final sentence. That will mean big changes in what robots can do and how they help us with daily tasks. So perhaps in the future, we may be able to use robots for more simple tasks, like picking up laundry.
It's true. I'm still a little bit worried about them taking jobs from people, especially people in the trucking industry, truckers, people who used to drive trucks. A lot of them might be out of a job pretty soon, thanks to robots. But anyway, we did see a word earlier in our lesson, the word assortment, and right now it's time for us to enjoy something fun. It's called a word skit. Here we go.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our shop. How can I help you today?
Yeah, hello. I need to buy a birthday present for my wife, but I never know what to get her. What kinds of gifts do you have?
Oh, we have a big assortment of gifts. What do you think your wife will like?
I'm not sure. How expensive are your gifts?
We have an assortment of prices from cheap to very expensive.
Please tell me about your cheap gifts.
Oh, well, we have a large assortment of bags for about $20 each.
Oh, my wife already has a large assortment of bags. No more bags, please.
Well, we have a large assortment of hats for about $10 each.
My wife already has a large assortment of hats. No more hats, please.
Okay. Oh, how about a teacup? We have a nice assortment of teacups. They cost about $5 each.
I think my wife will like a teacup.
Oh, great. If she likes one teacup, she will love an assortment of them. You could give her a different teacup for every birthday.
That's a great idea. Then I won't need to think about what to get her anymore.
Exactly.
Husbands, I'm not exactly sure that's the best way to surprise your wives on her birthday, but that is a good use of the word assortment. Okay, we've learned a little bit about what robots can do and what they might be able to do in the future. Who knows? I may be able to have a robot help me wash my dishes and sweep the floor and other things like that in the near future. Be sure to come back next time for a brand new lesson, completely different, right here on Studio Classroom. See you then.